And then I was in New York. I was in a health food store, one of the first. Like, there weren't health food stores back then a lot, but there was one on First Avenue. And suddenly there was an announcement, which was unusual in the health food store. I think it was called Prana Foods. And the announcement was that Kurt Cobain had just shot himself. It was like, and I had been actually, and still am, a Nirvana fan. I've seen one of the last concerts of Nirvana in New York City, and it was amazing. But he killed himself, and like the next day, I received a music cassette from a friend of mine from Berlin with electronic music. And I realized that there had been a paradigm shift, obviously. Rock music with the hero on stage was dead. Now it was, dance electronic music, which a lot of people today think it's kind of simplistic music form, but it's actually a very highly intelligent music form. At least it was in the 90s. People were really experimenting with that music. That was the new music. That was actually the reason I moved to Berlin. I decided I leave New York City. I'm going to move to Berlin. And then in Berlin, to answer your question, I fell in love with something that probably reminded me of the 20s, even though I wasn't there in the 20s. But the city was very open. The wall was still, it's a few years later, but still the wall, it felt like it just came down. Berlin was not yet the capital of Germany. That was still in Bonn. So Berlin was a very cheap and cultural and crazy city, probably a bit like in the 20s, actually. And that's how I fell in love with it. And that's how I became interested in this electronic scene. I visited many dance venues then called so-called clubs.
That's one of the hubs in the world of electronic music.
They claim that techno was kind of invented in Berlin, but it also comes from Detroit. So Detroit and Berlin are like the techno hubs, I would say.
Yeah, electronic music is a soundtrack for some of the most interesting experience this earth has ever created, right? Just it gets people together in some interesting ways. So it's not just the music itself, it's the experiences that the music enables.
Well, in Germany, we had a situation that the wall actually kept people apart. People didn't know each other. But because the wall came down, people suddenly met in abandoned buildings in the center of Berlin, which had been owned by the socialist state of East Germany. The most famous club, Tresor means like vault. It was the big vault with the big doors. So that's where Tresor was, the club.